and Perry on Culture, Todd Seavey and Gerard Perry, and one chunk of Culture out this summer is A Million Ways to Die in the West, Seth MacFarlane's foray into cowboy comedy, a little bit like his Blazing Saddles, I guess. What do you think?
I think it's horrific that you just compared Seth MacFarlane to Mel Brooks, to be honest, but
he's hilarious.
I'll let it go. He's hilarious isn't the word that I would use. My opinion on Seth MacFarlane can be distilled to I guess the essence would be the South Park satirization of MacFarlane, Cartoon Wars 1 and 2. I guess the entire episode is encapsulated in this one scene where you have a group of manatees bouncing these beach volleyballs that are plopped down into a gigantic aquarium, and on the balls it has they're little catchphrases or references to pop culture circa 1970s or 1980s sitcoms, and basically the manatees poke one or the other balls and they're crunched together, and that's the genesis of the next Family Guy episode.
And yet it seems to me like that is closer to being a description of Parker and Stone's creative process. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like South Park too, and there are fellow libertarians, so I should show my support, whereas Seth MacFarlane, of course, is a liberal. But it seems like South Park is the one that's completely random. It's like man, bear, pig, and Al Gore mispronounces a word for no particular reason, and then, hippies attack, or suddenly they're zombies or something.
Well,
I don't know. Family Guy usually has kind of a plot and has these little asides.
There is like the thing with Al Gore, for example, there is an underlying concept, whether they're lampooning Prius-driving environmentalists. And I'm not saying each episode of South Park is brilliant comedy, or then there aren't any failings in their approach, but I still think it's a bit more substantive to me than what Seth MacFarlane tries to do.
I guess I also feel kind of like South Park, in a way, is what would have happened, what would have gone wrong if I had started writing sitcoms in college, which is that basically it'd be like a list of abstract thesis statements, like I want to make a point about environmentalism, and then I want to make a point about cults, and then I want to make a point about zoology, whereas even though there's a lot of random cutaways and flashbacks on Family Guy, I feel like it's actually pretty insightful about psychology. I mean, largely about ugly parts of psychology, but it really captures like the vocal nuances of hypocrisy well, and the way people lie to themselves, and the way they pretend they're doing good things while being sadistic. I mean, I think it captures some of those ugly things that have not been done well in fluffy, light sitcoms
on network television. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. You might have a point. I
will say Seth MacFarlane's show American Dad, which I think is now actually better than Family Guy, basically because it does stick to plots in a more committed way, as opposed to just having lots of flashbacks. That show makes wonderful use of Patrick Stewart, who can do comedy quite well. So you've given me even more reason to be optimistic about future output from Seth MacFarlane. And to his credit, even though he has annoyed me at times with his simplistic jokes about the Tea Party or Sarah Palin and so forth, at least he is committed to comedy enough to be sort of an across-the-board nihilist who does just make fun of everything, which you could argue actually makes him more useful than, say, Colbert, who's basically been making fun of the same type of conservative nonstop for, like, a decade now, although it's finally coming to an end. I'll be relieved just to see him be able to be himself and talk about other things.
That's kind of an interesting question. Do you think he actually is capable of being? I'm not a fan of the late night comedy format, whether it's Jay Leno or David Letterman or Jack Paar. I don't think it's ever been that. I don't think it's ever been particularly interesting or entertaining, but
I liked Letterman and Conan a lot. They were
Conan O'Brien was actually pretty. I think he came the closest to being a gifted late night host. Although I've caught the rebooted Arsenio Hall show, and it actually is for the late night format. It's not too bad. Although some of the references are a bit dated.
I had the chance to talk to a writer from Conan O'Brien's old show back in like the late '90s, and it was sort of sad in a way, in that I was enthusing about how much I liked some of the more surreal, wacky flourishes. The robot sketches, the masturbating bear, and so forth. And the staring contests where surreal things would
Even
happen.
Triumph, the insert comic dog, was pretty amusing for the first couple of seasons.
And of course, we have to credit Robert Smigel for that. But the writer said, it's actually really difficult. Every time we do something surreal, we actually get hate mail. Like, a lot of America will send you hate mail if you do surreal stuff and say...
From very literalist-minded comedy fans.
As he put it, they've gotten angry letters that just say stuff like, you had an astronaut come out in a sketch, and then he took off his space helmet, and there was a bear underneath, and he started eating a fish. That doesn't make any sense. You people are stupid.
It's highly illogical.
Although maybe after another decade or so of very odd Skittles cartoons and the like, maybe now America's finally softened up to the point where they accept surrealism.
I wonder if if there's any overlap between those individuals and the Colbert fans, because I always found it hard to believe that there was a huge stable of Colbert. But maybe this is another blind spot, like the love that so many people have for Seth MacFarlane, that I can't understand why people find Stephen Colbert so entertaining. I guess if you enjoy parodying of I actually think watching Bill O'Reilly is funnier than watching a parody of Bill O'Reilly, to be perfectly honest, especially when done by a rather inept comedian.
You may be right. And we hope you'll watch us next time here at Seavey and Perry on Culture. Join us again here at the Lock Yard, this wonderful bar restaurant in Brooklyn, and enjoy movies.